As the sun rose over the bustling city of New York, Sarah Chen, a brilliant astrophysicist at the prestigious Columbia University, raced into her office. The previous night, her team had detected an anomaly in deep space, a massive, unidentified object unlike anything they had ever seen before. Dwarfing even the largest planets, this celestial behemoth was hurtling towards the solar system, and its mere presence was already disrupting communication satellites and destabilizing the orbits of nearby planets. Gathering her team, Sarah knew they had to act quickly to understand the nature of this extraordinary phenomenon. "What are we looking at here?" Sarah demanded, her eyes fixed on the real-time feed from their observation instruments. The images showed a dark, amorphous shape slowly approaching, its scale defying comprehension. "We're not entirely sure," one of her colleagues, Dr. Emily Vasquez, replied, her brow furrowed in concentration. "The object is massive, far beyond the size of anything we've ever encountered in our solar system. Its trajectory and velocity suggest it's not a natural celestial body, but something else entirely." Sarah nodded grimly, her mind racing. And the disruptions we're seeing, the satellite interference, the orbital disturbances. Do we have any idea what's causing that? Another scientist, Dr. Michael Rosenthal, stepped forward. "It's as if the object is generating some kind of powerful gravitational field that's throwing everything off balance. We've never seen anything like it before. It's almost as if..." He hesitated, the words catching in his throat. "As if what, Michael?" Sarah pressed, her voice sharp with urgency. "As if it's a living, sentient being," Rosenthal finished, his eyes wide with a mix of awe and trepidation. The room fell silent, the weight of his words hanging in the air. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. The implications of such a discovery were staggering. A cosmic entity of unimaginable scale and power, approaching their world with unknown intentions. "We need to inform the authorities immediately," she said, her tone resolute. "This is a global emergency that requires the world's attention. We have to understand what we're dealing with, and we have to do it quickly." Within hours, the news of the celestial anomaly had spread like wildfire, captivating the attention of governments and media outlets around the globe. World leaders convened emergency summits, mobilizing their top scientific minds to grapple with the implications of this unprecedented cosmic event. Sarah and her team found themselves at the center of the whirlwind, their research and analysis the focus of intense scrutiny and debate. They pored over the data, running simulations and models, desperately searching for answers that might illuminate the true nature of the approaching entity. "Everything we know about the universe tells us this shouldn't be possible," Sarah said, addressing a panel of international experts. "A celestial object of this magnitude, with the ability to disrupt the very fabric of our solar system. It defies all our scientific understanding." One of the panel members, a gruff-voiced Russian scientist, leaned forward. "But you must have some theories, Dr. Chen. Surely there are clues, something that might give us a hint as to what we're dealing with here." Sarah nodded, her expression grave. "We've considered a number of possibilities, but none of them fully explain what we're observing. The sheer scale of this object, the way it's interacting with the environment. It's as if it's not subject to the same physical laws that govern the rest of the cosmos." She paused, her gaze sweeping over the room. "Which leads us to the most unsettling conclusion, that this is not a natural celestial phenomenon at all, but something else entirely. Something alive." The room erupted in a flurry of whispered conversations, the implications of her words sparking a wave of unease and apprehension. Sarah waited patiently, allowing the initial shock to subside before continuing. "We've detected what appear to be energy signatures and communication signals emanating from the object, though we've been unable to decipher their meaning. It's as if it's trying to contact us, to convey some kind of message." She leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "Gentlemen, ladies, I believe we may be on the verge of making first contact with an extraterrestrial intelligence, one of unimaginable power and complexity." The room fell silent, the weight of her words settling like a pall over the gathered experts. The fate of humanity now hung in the balance as they confronted the prospect of an encounter with a cosmic entity that defied all their understanding. In the days that followed, the world's governments came together in an unprecedented display of cooperation, authorizing a daring exploratory mission to make direct contact with the colossal celestial entity. Sarah Chen, her reputation as a brilliant and fearless scientist preceding her, was handpicked to lead the mission. Assembling a team of the brightest minds from across the globe, Sarah oversaw the construction of a state-of-the-art spacecraft capable of withstanding the immense gravitational forces they expected to encounter. As the launch date approached, the world watched with bated breath, the weight of humanity's future resting squarely on the shoulders of this audacious endeavor. When the time came, Sarah and her crew climbed aboard the sleek, angular vessel, their faces etched with a mix of determination and trepidation. With a thunderous roar, the craft launched into the void, racing towards the ever-looming presence of the celestial anomaly. As they drew closer, the true scale of the object became increasingly difficult to comprehend. What had once appeared as a distant, amorphous shape now towered before them, a colossal mass that dwarfed even the largest planets. Sarah felt a growing sense of awe and unease wash over her, the sheer magnitude of the being unlike anything she had ever encountered. "Begin transmission protocols," she commanded, her voice betraying a hint of nervousness. "Let's see if we can make contact." The communication array on their ship crackled to life, sending out a series of carefully crafted signals and messages, a universal language of mathematics and science, designed to convey humanity's peaceful intentions. Moments later, the cabin erupted in a cacophony of alarms and warning lights. Sarah gripped the edge of her seat, her knuckles turning white, as the ship was buffeted by powerful energy pulses emanating from the celestial entity. "What's happening?" she shouted, her eyes scanning the array of monitors. "The object is responding to our transmissions, but the signals are unlike anything we've ever encountered," one of her colleagues reported, his voice trembling. "It's as if it's communicating on a level beyond our comprehension." Sarah's heart raced as she watched the data stream across the screens. The energy signatures, the disruptions to the local gravitational field, all of it pointed to a being of unimaginable power and complexity. She realized, with a growing sense of dread, that their ability to communicate effectively with this cosmic entity might be severely limited. "Keep trying," she said, her tone resolute. "We have to find a way to reach it, to understand its intentions. The fate of the entire world may depend on it." For hours, the crew continued their attempts at dialogue, sending out increasingly complex mathematical and scientific transmissions. But each time, the celestial being's response was the same, a series of ethereal signals and energy pulses that defied human understanding. Frustrated and exhausted, the team finally decided to take a different approach. Carefully maneuvering the spacecraft, they moved in closer, hoping to gain a better vantage point and perhaps glimpse some clue that might unlock the mystery of the alien entity. As they drew near, the scale of the being became even more overwhelming. Sarah stared out the viewport, her breath catching in her throat. The surface of the celestial entity seemed to undulate and shift, as if it were a living, breathing organism, a cosmic leviathan of unfathomable power. "My God," she whispered, her eyes wide with a mix of wonder and terror. "What are we dealing with here?" The rest of the crew fell silent, transfixed by the sheer magnitude of the being that now loomed before them. Humanity had ventured into the unknown, confronting a presence that defied all their scientific understanding. And as they observed the celestial entity, they realized that their ability to comprehend its true nature might be woefully inadequate. Sarah turned to her team, her expression grave. "We need to report back to the world's governments immediately. They need to understand the scale of what we're facing here, a cosmic power that could alter the very fabric of our existence. We're going to have to rethink everything we know about the universe and how we approach this extraordinary encounter." With a heavy heart, she gave the order to begin the return journey, knowing that the fate of humanity now hung in the balance. As the spacecraft slowly pulled away, Sarah couldn't help but glance back at the towering entity, its presence etched indelibly in her mind. She knew that their first contact with this cosmic being was only the beginning, a harbinger of things to come that would forever change the course of human history. As the exploratory spacecraft returned to Earth, Sarah Chen and her team knew they had to act quickly. The ominous presence of the celestial entity had shaken the world, sparking a flurry of activity as governments and scientific institutions around the globe mobilized to grapple with the implications of this extraordinary encounter. Immediately upon landing, Sarah and her crew were whisked away to a secure facility, where they debriefed the world's top political and military leaders. The room was charged with a palpable sense of tension as Sarah recounted the details of their harrowing mission, her words punctuated by the awestruck expressions of those in attendance. The scale of this object, the power it seems to wield, it's beyond anything we could have imagined, Sarah said, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. Our attempts at communication were met with signals that defy all our scientific understanding. It's as if this entity is operating on a plane of existence that is completely foreign to us. One of the generals, a gruff-faced veteran, leaned forward in his seat, and you have no idea what its intentions are, no sense of what it wants. Sarah shook her head grimly. Unfortunately, no. The energy pulses and transmissions we detected seem to be a response to our own attempts at communication, but their meaning is completely opaque to us. We simply don't have the tools or the knowledge to comprehend the nature of this being. The room erupted in a flurry of concerned murmurs, the weight of the situation palpable. Sarah waited patiently, knowing that the implications of their findings were staggering. Finally, a distinguished-looking diplomat cleared his throat, his expression grave. "Dr. Chen, you must understand the gravity of this situation. The stability of the entire planet is at risk. The disruptions we're seeing to our satellite networks and planetary orbits could have catastrophic consequences if left unchecked." Sarah nodded solemnly. "I'm well aware of the stakes, sir. That's why we've been working around the clock to try and decipher the entity's transmissions, to find some clue as to its intentions. And I believe we may have made a breakthrough." She gestured to one of her colleagues, who stepped forward with a stack of printouts. "Our analysis of the energy signatures and communication patterns suggests that the entity is somehow trying to convey a warning, a message of impending danger that it wants us to heed." The room fell silent as the scientist began laying out the evidence, his voice tinged with a sense of awe and trepidation. "The patterns we've detected indicate that the entity is not simply reacting to our presence, but actively attempting to communicate with us. And the message it seems to be conveying is one of urgency, a dire warning about a cataclysmic event that it believes only we can prevent." Sarah stepped forward, her expression grave. "Gentlemen, ladies, I believe we are on the verge of making contact with an extraterrestrial intelligence, one that is trying to avert a cosmic disaster of unimaginable proportions, and the fate of our entire world may rest on our ability to decipher its warning and take the appropriate action." The room erupted in a cacophony of voices, the gathered experts grappling with the implications of Sarah's revelations. Governments scrambled to convene emergency summits, mobilizing their top scientific minds in a desperate race against time to unravel the celestial entity's cryptic message. Sarah, her exhaustion evident but her determination unwavering, found herself at the center of the maelstrom. Day and night, she and her team pored over the data, analyzing every nuance of the entity's transmissions, searching for the clues that might unlock the key to humanity's survival. As the days turned into weeks, the pressure mounted, the weight of the world's future bearing down on their shoulders. And with each passing moment, the celestial entity drew ever closer, its mere presence disrupting the delicate balance of the solar system. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, a breakthrough, a glimmer of understanding that ignited a flicker of hope within Sarah's heart. Gathering her colleagues, she convened an emergency meeting, her eyes shining with a newfound determination. "I believe we've cracked the code," she said, her voice hushed with a mix of awe and trepidation. "We know what the entity is trying to tell us, and the implications are beyond anything we could have imagined." The room fell silent, the gathered experts leaning forward in rapt attention. In that moment, the fate of humanity hung in the balance, as Sarah Chen prepared to deliver the most consequential message the world had ever heard. In the wake of Sarah Chen's startling revelations, the world's governments came together in an unprecedented display of unity and cooperation. Putting aside their differences and political agendas, the nations of the globe mobilized their resources and expertise in a desperate attempt to avert the impending cosmic disaster. Convening a series of emergency summits, the world's leading scientists, engineers, and diplomats worked around the clock, pooling their collective knowledge and capabilities. The stakes were unimaginably high, for the celestial entity's warning had painted a dire picture, a cataclysmic event that threatened the very fabric of human civilization. "We have to act quickly," Sarah stressed, her voice tinged with a sense of urgency. "Every moment we delay, the entity draws closer, and the risks only escalate. We need to make contact, to establish a dialogue and understand exactly what it is that we need to do to prevent this catastrophe." The assembled experts nodded in agreement, their faces etched with a mix of determination and trepidation. They knew that the stakes were unlike anything humanity had ever faced, and the path forward was shrouded in uncertainty. "What do you propose, Dr. Chen?" a grizzled general asked, his eyes narrowed in contemplation. Sarah took a deep breath, her gaze sweeping across the room. "We need to build an unprecedented communications array, one capable of transmitting signals strong enough to reach the celestial entity and establish a clear, unambiguous dialogue." She paused, her expression grave. "Anything less simply won't be enough. We're talking about a being of cosmic proportions, one that operates on a scale that defies our current technological capabilities. We need to push the boundaries of what we thought possible." The room erupted in a flurry of discussion, the experts debating the feasibility and logistics of such an ambitious undertaking. But as the hours ticked by, a consensus began to emerge. If humanity had any hope of averting the impending disaster, this was the path forward. In the weeks that followed, the world's resources were mobilized on a scale never seen before. Governments poured trillions of dollars into the project, streamlining bureaucratic red tape and cutting through political gridlock. Scientists and engineers from every corner of the globe converged on the task, pooling their knowledge and expertise to tackle the daunting challenge. The construction of the massive communications array was a Herculean feat of engineering, requiring the coordination of countless teams and the deployment of cutting-edge technologies. Enormous energy transmission facilities were erected across the world, their towering structures visible from space, all connected by a complex network of power grids and data links. As the project neared completion, the world held its breath, the weight of humanity's future resting squarely on the success of this unprecedented endeavor. Sarah Chen, her face etched with a mix of hope and trepidation, oversaw the final testing and calibration, her mind racing with the implications of what was to come. Finally, the moment of truth arrived. The massive communications array was activated, sending out a barrage of carefully crafted signals and mathematical codes, a universal language designed to establish a clear, unambiguous dialogue with the celestial entity. Seconds ticked by, and then minutes, as the world waited with bated breath. Sarah and her team monitored the data streams, their eyes glued to the screens, searching for any sign of a response. And then it happened. A pulse of energy, a ripple in the fabric of the cosmos, as the celestial being acknowledged the transmission. The room erupted in a cacophony of cheers and relieved sighs, the tension of the past weeks giving way to a sense of cautious optimism. Sarah, her eyes shining with a newfound determination, turned to her colleagues. "This is it, everyone. The fate of our world is in our hands now. We have to get this right." With a nod, she returned her attention to the screens, her fingers dancing across the controls as she prepared to initiate the most crucial dialogue in human history. The celestial entity had heard their message, and now it was time to learn the truth, to uncover the nature of the impending disaster and discover what it would take to avert it. As the transmission began, the world held its breath, knowing that the outcome of this encounter would forever shape the course of human civilization. With time running out and the celestial entity drawing ever closer, the world's governments knew they had to take drastic action. Sarah Chen and her team had managed to establish a tenuous dialogue with the cosmic being, but the message it was conveying remained maddeningly opaque. Convening an emergency council, the world's top diplomats and scientific minds debated the best course of action. They knew they had to find a way to communicate more effectively, to truly understand the nature of the impending disaster and what it would take to avert it. Finally, after days of intense discussion, a daring plan was put into motion. A team of hand-picked envoys, led by Sarah herself, would board a specialized craft and attempt to make direct contact with the celestial entity. The risks were monumental, for the sheer scale and power of the being was beyond anything humanity had ever encountered. But the stakes were equally high. Failure would almost certainly doom the entire planet. As the envoys prepared for their perilous journey, Sarah addressed them, her voice resolute but betraying a hint of trepidation. "We all know the risks we're facing here," she said, her gaze sweeping across the assembled group. "But the fate of our world hangs in the balance. We have to find a way to communicate with this entity, to understand its intentions and discover what it will take to prevent the catastrophe it has warned us about." The envoys nodded, their expressions a mix of determination and unease. They knew that they were venturing into the unknown, confronting a cosmic power that defied all human comprehension. And so, with a deep breath, they boarded the sleek, angular spacecraft and began their perilous journey towards the looming presence of the celestial entity. As they drew closer, the sheer scale of the being became increasingly overwhelming, its mere presence distorting the very fabric of space-time around it. Sarah gripped the armrests of her seat, her knuckles turning white, as the craft was buffeted by powerful energy pulses emanating from the entity. The alarms blared, and the cabin shook violently, but the pilot kept the craft steady, their eyes fixed on the formidable presence before them. "Begin transmission protocols," Sarah commanded, her voice betraying a hint of trepidation. "Let's see if we can establish a more direct dialogue." The communication array crackled to life, sending out a series of complex mathematical and scientific signals, a language designed to convey humanity's peaceful intentions and its desperate need for understanding. Moments later, the cabin was plunged into a surreal and unsettling silence, as the craft seemed to be enveloped by a pulsing ethereal energy. The envoys stared out the viewport, their breath catching in their throats, as the celestial entity loomed before them, its surface undulating and shifting in a manner that defied all logic. "What's happening?" Sarah whispered, her eyes wide with a mix of awe and terror. One of the scientists, his face pale, turned to her. "The entity is responding to our transmissions, but the signals we're detecting are unlike anything we've ever encountered. It's as if it's communicating on a level that is completely foreign to us." Sarah nodded, her mind racing. She knew that their ability to effectively communicate with this cosmic being was crucial, for the fate of the world hung in the balance. But the sheer scale and power of the entity was overwhelming, making the prospect of a true dialogue seem almost impossibly distant. Steeling her nerves, Sarah leaned forward, her eyes fixed on the shifting, ethereal surface of the celestial entity. "We have to keep trying," she said, her voice steady despite the palpable tension in the cabin. "The world is counting on us to understand this being, to discover what it is that it needs from us to avert this disaster." The envoys nodded, their expressions grim but resolute. With a silent prayer, they turned their focus back to the task at hand, determined to find a way to pierce the veil of incomprehension that separated them from the colossal entity. For hours, they continued their attempts at communication, sending out increasingly complex signals and mathematical codes, Each one met with a response that defied their understanding. The cabin was filled with the hum of the equipment and the occasional exclamation of frustration as the team struggled to make sense of the entity's otherworldly transmissions. And then, just when all hope seemed lost, a breakthrough, a glimmer of understanding that sparked a renewed determination within the envoys. Sarah leaned forward, her eyes shining with a newfound sense of purpose. "I think we're getting somewhere," she said, her voice tinged with a hint of cautious optimism. "We just need to keep pushing, to find a way to truly connect with this being. The fate of the world depends on it." With a renewed sense of urgency, the envoys redoubled their efforts, determined to unravel the mystery of the celestial entity and discover what it would take to avert the impending catastrophe. As the envoys aboard the specialized craft continued their painstaking efforts to communicate with the celestial entity, the world watched with bated breath. The stakes were unimaginably high, for the fate of human civilization hung in the balance. Back on Earth, Sarah Chen and her team of scientists pored over the data, analyzing every nuance of the entity's transmissions, searching for the clues that might unlock the key to its intentions. They knew that time was running out, that the cosmic being was drawing ever closer, its mere presence disrupting the delicate balance of the solar system. Finally, after days of exhaustive work, a breakthrough. The envoys had managed to establish a rudimentary dialogue, gleaning a glimpse into the nature of the entity and the impending disaster it had warned them about. Convening an emergency meeting with the world's top political and military leaders, Sarah delivered the news, her expression grave. "The entity's purpose is to maintain the cosmic balance," she explained, her voice hushed with a mix of awe and trepidation. "It's a being of unimaginable power, charged with the task of preserving the delicate equilibrium of the universe." She paused, her gaze sweeping across the room. "And it believes that our actions, our very presence in this solar system, have disrupted that balance, triggering a cataclysmic event that will have devastating consequences, not just for our world, but for the entire cosmos." The room erupted in a flurry of concerned murmurs, the weight of her words hanging heavy in the air. Sarah waited patiently, allowing the implications to sink in. "So what does it want from us?" one of the generals finally asked, his brow furrowed in consternation. Sarah took a deep breath. "According to the envoys, the entity is demanding a significant sacrifice, an action or offering of such magnitude that it would restore the cosmic balance and avert the impending disaster." The room fell silent, the gravity of the situation palpable. Sarah knew that what she was about to propose would be met with resistance, for the scale of the sacrifice would be unprecedented in human history. "We have to give it what it wants," she said, her voice resolute. "The fate of the world, the fate of the entire universe, depends on our willingness to make this sacrifice." The leaders exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of the decision clearly weighing heavily on their minds. Sarah pressed on, her eyes burning with a fierce determination. "We have to redirect our global resources, our energy production, on a scale never seen before," she explained. "We need to create a massive transmission array, one powerful enough to communicate with the entity and convince it that we are sincere in our efforts to restore the cosmic balance." One of the diplomats leaned forward, his expression skeptical. "And you believe this will be enough? That the entity will be satisfied with such an offering?" Sarah nodded, her jaw set with unwavering conviction. "It's our only hope. This being operates on a plane of existence that is completely foreign to us. If we don't take this drastic action, the consequences will be unimaginable." The room fell silent once more, the weight of the decision bearing down on the gathered leaders. They knew that what Sarah was proposing would come at an immense cost, both in terms of resources and human suffering. But the alternative was unthinkable: the destruction of their entire world, and potentially the entire cosmic order. Finally, after hours of intense debate, a consensus emerged. With a heavy heart, the world's governments committed to the ambitious plan, redirecting their economies and energy production towards the construction of the massive transmission array. As the project got underway, The envoys aboard the specialized craft maintained their vigil, continuing their efforts to communicate with the celestial entity. They knew that the fate of humanity rested on their shoulders, and that the slightest misstep could doom the world to a fate worse than death. Sarah, her exhaustion evident, but her determination unwavering, oversaw the monumental undertaking, her mind racing with the implications of what they were about to attempt. She knew that this was humanity's last, best hope, a desperate gamble that could either save the world or condemn it to oblivion. And as the transmission array neared completion, the world held its breath, praying that the celestial entity would accept their offering and spare the planet from the cosmic disaster that loomed on the horizon. The successful negotiation with the celestial entity was celebrated around the world as a triumph for humanity, a testament to the power of global cooperation and scientific ingenuity in the face of unimaginable adversity. Sarah Chen and her team of intrepid envoys were hailed as heroes, their names etched into the annals of history as the saviors of the planet. Yet, as the initial euphoria subsided, the true cost of the sacrifice began to emerge. The tremendous redirection of resources and energy production had taken a severe toll on the global economy, with many nations struggling to rebuild their shattered infrastructures and restore basic services to their citizens. Governments scrambled to provide aid and support, but the scars left by the celestial encounter would take years, if not decades, to fully heal. Shortages of food, water, and essential supplies plagued many regions, sparking civil unrest and political upheaval in some of the hardest-hit areas. In the midst of the turmoil, Sarah and her team returned to their laboratories, determined to unravel the mysteries that had been unveiled during their harrowing encounter with the celestial entity. They pored over the data, analyzing every nuance of the being's transmissions, searching for clues that might shed light on the cosmic forces that govern the universe. "We've only scratched the surface," Sarah admitted, her brow furrowed in concentration. "The scale and complexity of this entity are beyond anything we could have imagined. It operates on a plane of existence that is completely foreign to us, and understanding its true nature is going to be a monumental challenge." Despite the daunting task ahead, Sarah and her colleagues remained undaunted, driven by a newfound sense of purpose and a deep desire to uncover the secrets of the cosmos. They knew that the fate of humanity had been forever altered by their encounter with the celestial being, and that the knowledge they uncovered could shape the course of human civilization for generations to come. As the months turned into years, the world slowly began to rebuild, its collective psyche forever transformed by the experience. The once divisive nations had forged an unprecedented bond, united by the shared trauma of confronting a threat that transcended national boundaries and ideological differences. In classrooms and laboratories around the globe, the lessons of the celestial encounter were being studied and debated, inspiring a new generation of scientists and thinkers to push the boundaries of human understanding. The story of how humanity had faced and overcome a challenge beyond its comprehension had become the stuff of legend, a testament to the resilience and ingenuity of the human spirit. Sarah, now celebrated as a hero, continued to lead the charge, her scientific curiosity and determination fueling humanity's quest to unravel the secrets of the celestial beings and their role in the grand cosmic tapestry. With each new discovery, the team inched closer to a deeper understanding of the forces that govern the universe, their findings shattering long-held assumptions and redefining the very nature of human existence. Yet, even as they made progress, Sarah and her colleagues were haunted by the lingering questions that had been unearthed during their encounter. What was the true nature of the celestial entity? What other cosmic powers lurked in the vast expanse of the universe? And what role did humanity play in the grand scheme of things? These questions, like the celestial being itself, remained tantalizingly out of reach, their answers shrouded in the mysteries of the cosmos. But Sarah and her team were undeterred, their curiosity and sense of purpose only growing stronger with each passing year. As they ventured forth into the stars, humanity carried with it the knowledge that it had faced and overcome a challenge beyond human understanding, forever transforming its place in the universe. And with each new discovery, the world inched closer to unraveling the secrets of the celestial beings and the role they played in the grand tapestry of existence. In the decades that followed the world's harrowing encounter with the celestial entity, humanity emerged stronger and more united than ever before. The shared experience of confronting an existential threat beyond their comprehension had forged an unbreakable bond between nations, transcending the divisions and conflicts that had once plagued the global community. Sarah Chen, now celebrated as a hero, continued to lead the charge in unraveling the mysteries of the cosmos. As the head of a renowned research institute, she dedicated her life to pushing the boundaries of human knowledge. Driven by an insatiable curiosity and a deep desire to understand the true nature of the celestial being they had encountered. With each new discovery, Sarah and her team inched closer to a deeper understanding of the forces that governed the universe. They studied the entity's transmissions, analyzed the data from their groundbreaking communication array, and probed the furthest reaches of the cosmos, searching for clues that might shed light on the celestial being's true purpose. The world watched with rapt attention as Sarah's findings challenged long-held assumptions and redefined the very nature of human existence. The cosmos, once viewed as a vast, empty expanse, now revealed itself to be a tapestry of interconnected forces, with humanity playing a vital role in the grand scheme of things. As the years passed, Sarah's work inspired a new generation of scientists and thinkers who carried the torch of discovery forward. Humanity's collective understanding of the universe expanded exponentially, and with it came a renewed sense of purpose and a deeper appreciation for the fragility and interconnectedness of all existence. But the lessons of the celestial encounter went far beyond the purely scientific. The world had come together in the face of an unimaginable threat, putting aside their differences and political agendas to work towards a common goal. This spirit of global cooperation and unity had become the hallmark of the post-celestial era, shaping the way humanity approached the challenges that lay ahead. Gone were the days of petty squabbles and narrow-minded nationalism. In their place, a new era of collaboration and shared responsibility had emerged, as the nations of the world recognized that their collective fate was inextricably linked to the health of the cosmos itself. Sarah witnessed this transformation with a sense of profound pride and humility. She knew that the sacrifice made during the celestial encounter had come at a tremendous cost, but the dividends it had reaped were beyond anything she could have imagined. As humanity ventured forth into the stars, carrying with it the knowledge that it had faced and overcome a challenge beyond human understanding, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and wonder. The universe, once shrouded in mystery, had revealed itself to be a complex, living tapestry, and humanity was now an integral part of that grand design. In the years that followed, Sarah continued to lead the charge, her scientific curiosity and determination undiminished by the passage of time. She knew that the journey of discovery was far from over, and that the secrets of the celestial beings still lay beyond the reach of human understanding. But with each new breakthrough, with each new revelation, Sarah and her team inched closer to unlocking the true nature of the cosmos. They probed the furthest reaches of space, delving into the very fabric of reality, their findings reshaping the way humanity viewed its place in the grand scheme of existence. And as the world watched with a renewed sense of wonder and purpose, Sarah couldn't help but feel a deep sense of gratitude for the opportunity to be a part of this extraordinary journey. The celestial encounter had been a defining moment in human history, a catalyst that had transformed the very course of civilization. Now, as humanity stood poised to venture even deeper into the unknown, Sarah knew that the lessons of the past would serve as a guiding light, illuminating the path forward and shaping the destiny of all who called this planet home. With a smile on her face and a heart full of hope, she turned her gaze towards the stars, determined to unravel the mysteries of the cosmos and unveil the secrets that lay hidden within the vast expanse of the universe.